Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Adam Dorsay, a psychologist in Silicon Valley and the host of SuperPsyched, a podcast dedicated to supercharging your life. Each episode contains fun, high-quality interviews with experts looking at psychology from all angles. SuperPsyched is your tool to get more of what you want in your life and less of what you don't. Comedy has got to be one of the greatest inventions, and when it comes to coping strategies, I would place laughter toward the top of the food chain. The health benefits of laughter have been researched and demonstrated to deliver big. Although there is truth to the axiom, the more bitter the medicine, the better the cure, the Mayo Clinic also praises laughter for its ability to stimulate our organs, activate and relieve our stress response, improve our immune systems, relieve pain, and, not shockingly, improve mood. And one of my favorite creators of laughter is none other than comedian Chip Chantry. Chip used to be a fourth grade teacher, and he has become a brilliant, acclaimed comedian rocking some big stages, and his special, Move Closer, is a must-see. I loved my conversation with him and feel confident you will too. So listen in as Chip and I geek out to the world of laughter and comedy. Chip Chantry, welcome to SuperPsyched.
Thank you so much for having me. I am psyched myself.
Yeah, man, I love your work. I'm so grateful to Anna Goldfarb who connected us. And there you are sitting in South Philly, a former fourth grade teacher who I imagine was one of the best. In fact, interestingly, one of the funniest human beings I know is a fifth grade teacher who I had on this podcast who said, I have nothing to say. And lo and behold, his episode has more download than Steve Kerr's. For some reason, it was just so funny. But there's something about being able to keep the attention of children and being funny, being entertaining. I imagine in some ways, it seems like an indirect path, but it may have been more direct than we think. Can you talk about that transition of going from fourth grade teacher to truly a rock star comedian whose special I actually watched 3 times and laughed my ass off every time?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Oh, is that special Move Closer available now on YouTube?
It is available. I
just like to throw that in conversation
on YouTube, and it is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I can tell you that transition, that connection. I need attention and love from people. I need attention. And that's what started it out. I always loved stand-up comedy. I loved comedy. I was a shy, anxious kid. I was not the class clown. I was not the popular kid, anything like that. But I got into theater in high school. And I would literally watch, remember those old stand-up comedy shows? I would literally tape them on my VCR as a child. All my friends are watching cartoons. I'm watching MTV's half-hour comedy hour. But how do you get into it? It's not a job. It's not a career. It's these strange people that travel the country. Carnival folk, if you will. But I got into theater in high school, loved that. But then I decided, I'll be a teacher. And just like you, I love what you do. I wanted to be a psychologist. I thought I enjoy people. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy sharing things with people. So I was like, I'll be a teacher. I had some teachers in my family. So it is that show business kind of feel. And then right about maybe 2 years into it, my brother was in a band. My brother is a great musician, and he was in a local band in Philadelphia. I was the funny guy that would hang out with the band. They booked me to do stand-up comedy without telling me. Just didn't tell me until a week ahead of time. I saw my name on a flyer in the city, and I said, what is this? They were like, we're going to tell you tonight. You're going to do 10 minutes before our next show. And they knew I had this notebook, this secret notebook where I was writing jokes down, but what do you do with them? And so I did it. I figured I'd do it once and crash and burn, bomb, and then just cross it off my bucket list and then go skydiving or whatever the next thing is. And let me tell you, Adam, there are moments in your life. And I still remember standing in that room. There were 60 people, and it was mostly friends and family. So the deck was stacked in my favor. Trust me. But I don't remember anything as clearly as that first wave of laughter. I know where everybody was sitting. I remember the lighting. And then that first wave of laughter that hit me after something I said, and I was right there. I was done. That's the before and after of that moment right there. So I continued I was teaching during the day, and for about a decade, I lived a double life. Batman, but nowhere near as cool. But I was a stand-up comedian at night, teacher during the day. And I will tell you this. He said, oh, you must have been so funny with the kids. And to a certain extent, I think that was true. But I had this thing where I was this young guy, nervous, got the anxiety, like I didn't want to get fired. And I didn't want people to find out that I did this at night because they would think I was a clown. I wasn't taking my job seriously. So I tried to really hide it. And I found myself even subconsciously being extra serious in the classroom because I didn't want to show that side of me. A couple years after that, I took a sabbatical. I took a year off because I knew I wanted to move on to comedy and writing. And I came back, and I knew I had to come back for at least a year after the sabbatical. And I ended up doing 2 more years. And then that's when I finally moved on. But after that sabbatical, here's the key to life. If your listeners are there, it's this right here. Stop caring. I just stopped. What are they going to do? Fire me? I wasn't derelict in my duty. I still think I was a good teacher, but I just decided to have fun and not worry about dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, all the standardized tests, all that stuff. I still did it, but I was like, we're just going to have fun now. And I was goofier with the kids. And I'll be honest with you, my scores went up in the standardized test. They went up because I was making a connection with the kids. I made it more relatable. You know this better than I do probably, but just the psychology of humor in your brain. I mean, you attach an emotion to something, especially humor, we remember it better. It's a funny song. We know all the lyrics. And so I would do that with the kids, and they actually got better, I think. And I had more of a connection. They cared about me more. I was more of a human being to them, I think. And then, of course, then I moved off into the sunset, and I got my first TV writing job. And so that was about 10 years ago. And
oh my God.
Haven't looked back. Have not looked back. That is
such a great story. I love that idea of the crossroads, whether it's you getting up and doing your first tight 5 before the band. I don't know if it was a tight 5 or what, and just feeling that wave of laughter.
It was not tight. I can tell you that at all.
Loose 5
Very loose.
Or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And Jerry Seinfeld describes his first moment in grade school when he caused a kid to laugh and milk came out his nose. He's like, I want to do more of this. Yes. And here it was for you. It became clear. What's interesting is when it comes to learning and memory paired with humor, these seem to go together perfectly. It's almost like hazelnut and chocolate becoming Nutella. It's awesome. We have better outcomes with humor, with laughter and memory. They seem to be very much correlated. And in appropriate doses in psychotherapy, it's a really great thing too. You just have to know how to use it. And I remember there was this moment, I was working with gang-affiliated youth, and there was this moment where I was thinking to myself, okay, something absolutely hilarious just happened. I was trained to be very kind of tabula rasa, almost monosyllabic, almost like Ben Stein and Ferris Bueller.
Anyone.
And I remember it was a fork in the road, and I was like, do I or don't I? Do I or don't I? Do I be real in this moment and add some MSG and make it funnier? Mm-hmm. Or do I tamp it down? I chose the MSG route. I decided to make it funnier.
Yes. And
the place went freaking nuts. And the rapport shifted with the teen, and the outcomes were better shortly thereafter. And I remember a veteran psychologist said to me after I got licensed, he said, now you're a psychologist. Now that you're licensed, you can now learn to be a psychologist. And one of the things I've done consistently, I'm no comedian. I will never say I'm a comedian, but I will say I judiciously apply humor in the context of therapy, and it works. It does appear to yield better outcomes, stronger rapport with the people with whom I serve, and deeper learning. So it's just a perfect marriage.
It's so funny that you say that, because I remember I was studying right as I started teaching. I was going to get my master's in educational psychology. And then I ended up just getting elementary my master's in elementary ed. But I did that for a bit, and I took one class about counselling therapy, and I wrote my thesis paper for the semester on using humor in therapy. And again, I didn't know much about it, but it was just so great. And one of the things I remember that I read about in my research was that laughter and crying, it's the same thing, basically.
Totally.
It's catharsis. It's the release of something. And So if you can make somebody laugh about it, or you can make somebody cry about it, that's an emotional breakthrough right there. So if they're laughing at something, that's telling you just as much as if they're crying about it, I would assume. But it's just getting to a place and then having a cathartic moment. Whether you laugh together or cry together, you're going to be better friends, no matter what.
A percent. Right? I believe that it was Gary Shandling who said, I was seeing a therapist and I said something funny, and the therapist in a very blasé tone said, "Are you being funny?" And that was when he knew he couldn't continue working with this guy because the guy needed a vibe with him. You got a vibe.
That's
so in
hilarious.
Laughter and Crying, I mean, why do we laugh at funerals so often? Because there is a catharsis. There's a funny anecdote about the deceased. And so these work very well. You have really funny jokes about death because, as you were telling me offline, you fear death. And so do all the great comedians. It's a memento mori, evening.
It's a way to deal with it. It's that defense mechanism. And I think sometimes defense mechanisms are good. And we saw it, my friends and I talk about this, that a lot of it came from our dads. And I'm not saying this is right at all, but growing up in the 80s, and anytime has them, but you would have these tragedies, these national tragedies that would happen, or these horrible things in the news, whatever it was. And what would we hear? We would hear our dads telling each other jokes about it. Off-color, inappropriate jokes about a tragedy that just happened. And we would think it's funny as a kid, but then you're like, oh, that's terrible. And it's like, no, it's their way of coping with this. As a person in the 80s who wasn't able to, again, cry about it, let's laugh about it. And again, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but then that's what I learned was if something is scary, make fun of it, and it's not as scary anymore. So what would you say to that as a psychologist? Is that a positive coping mechanism, or am I shutting myself off to something?
So I'm going to go full Mickey Mantle on this. Mickey Mantle was a famous switch hitter. And I believe that the hallmark of psychological well-being, and I'm getting a little bit heady here, is cognitive flexibility, the ability to do two things. So that's why I'm using Mickey Mantle, the switch hitter.
Okay.
A great switch hitter in baseball. He could hit a home run righty, he could hit it lefty. And what I would want from the people with whom I work is to be able to laugh and to cry. I think a coping strategy sometimes is humor. And during tragic events, the ER physicians use it all the time. They have to. I don't know if you've ever watched The Pit, not very far away from where you live, but it's on Max right now. And it's got one of the best. It's got Noah Weil as an ER physician. It's just, wow, it's hard. As a coping strategy, you got to make some light out of this incredible amounts of darkness. Let's call that right-handed hitting. Left-handed hitting, I'd want people to also be able to cry, because I don't want them just to laugh at the expense of being able to cry. I think that to be a full human, we need to be able to do both, ideally. Now, some people are more prone to one or the other, but I still say if cognitive flexibility rules the day, let's do some psychological yoga and laugh hard and cry hard. You have a joke about I play hard and I work hard. Folks, the YouTube will be in the notes. It's a must watch. It's 54 minutes of absolute pure pleasure. And it's very tight. It's Rolex tight.
Here's a little Easter egg for you. I don't know if you noticed this. Hey, if you watch it a fourth time, thank you so much.
I will watch it a fourth time.
Okay. When you watch it a fourth time, don't just watch this handsome face right here. In the front row, did you notice anybody in the front row?
There would be an Anna Goldfarb there.
There's an Anna Goldfarb, one of your former guests who are mutual friend.
One of my
she and her husband Mike are two of my really good friends, and they just happen to be sitting right in the front row. So
absolutely.
Friendly faces there.
You got to have that. So let's talk about the audience itself. There's kind of nothing more terrifying in the world. I mean, we know a lot of funny people, but they can't necessarily get up on stage, do a tight 3, do a tight 5, do a tight 54. They can't do it. It's really, really hard. I actually went up and tried to do a tight 3 once. And what I did was clever and it was witty, but it wasn't funny. And in fact, one of the notes I got when I got off stage was, hey, man, next time be funny. And so,
oh, jeez.
And they were right. So what I'm driving at is when you're up there and people are on their phone or having a conversation or heckling or doing some things or a joke, you tell a joke, you're in a city and it just crickets. It doesn't land. And you feel like the shame monster coming into you or whatever it might be. How do you manage that and get back in the game?
I think it's that laugh and cry thing like you talked about. I used to do it one way, which was the wrong way. Now I think I handle it hopefully better. I'm a prep guy. I like to do my homework. I like to get ready. I have a set list. Here are the jokes that I'm going to do. And then I used to get up on stage as a scared kid and just be like, here's my first joke. Here's my second joke. Whether it goes well or not, I'm just going to move on. Just move on. If that didn't get a laugh, well, hopefully they haven't noticed. So I'll just move on to my next joke. By the way, sub story, Zucker, the airplane guys, Naked Gun, all those
best.
The classic movies, the Kentucky Fried Movie, all those.
Unbelievable.
As a teenager, probably my favorite movie to watch. And obviously some of it doesn't hold up to this day. I don't necessarily agree with, but hey, it was the time. But Airplane, just classic.
Really?
The reason apparently that it's joke, gag every 30 seconds, not even every 15 seconds, is because apparently the Zucker brothers used to do a stage act together in the 70s, maybe even in the 60s. And they were so afraid of a joke bombing that they always had another joke ready. Let's just go to the next joke.
Just machine gun.
So they were always covering themselves. Without knowing, I would do the same thing. It's the next joke. Obviously, I didn't realize that everybody's on stage looking at me like, this kid knows that his jokes are bombing, right? So what you have to do is you have to break the fourth wall and you have to be like, boy, you guys really hated that joke. And let's sit in this together for a second. And I can be self-deprecating, which obviously is superpower if you can be self-deprecating. Because if I can make fun of myself, then you can't to a certain extent. And I'm just being honest and open. So I teach a stand-up class at Helium Comedy Club in Philadelphia. I've been teaching it for years. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. And one of the first lessons I teach my students that want to be stand-up comedians is the first most important job of a comedian is not to get laughs. That's not the most important thing at all. That's number two. Number one is to connect with an audience, to relate to an audience. It's not me and them. It's us. If you can laugh with them, now we're all together. And I had some pretty funny jokes when I first started. They were okay. They were relatively smart, but I wasn't connecting with an audience. I was just sort of spraying jokes at them. And now I realize that you have to be in that moment and there's a give and take. And so I have to relate to them. Again, if they're on their phone, if they're talking, I've lost them. One of the questions I get a lot is, what do you do with hecklers? How do you handle hecklers? First of all, heckling happens much more rarely than you would think. Heckling almost never happens anymore. Crowds know that's not supposed to happen. It's not everybody, but it doesn't happen. But the thing about hecklers is, at least with a heckler, at least they're engaged in what I'm talking about. They're listening and then they're throwing their opinion back or whatever they're yelling at. The thing that's way worse is when somebody is talking or on their phone because they're checked out. And that is so much more pervasive and so much more, to me, almost insulting. If they're yelling something, hey, at least they're listening. And so what you have to do is, and then again, it's a little trick of the trade, but to get them back, you start nice and you get mean. You start nice, you do a little thing. It's a little teacher trick too. So if somebody is texting or talking in the crowd, I do a little fourth grade teacher trick where I will direct my joke directly to them. So I will look them directly in the eye. Now, by the way, most of the audience, they don't know I'm doing it. They don't know I'm doing this unless it's very obvious that these people are talking. Usually it's this hushed conversation. So I'll just deliver the joke to table 7 until I catch their eye. And then all of a sudden they lock eyes. As you know, 99% of the people in the world are very nice people. And they're like, oh my God, I was talking. He caught me. And they stop immediately. So I don't acknowledge it. I'm not mean about it. And I just move on. And only they and I know that that happened.
Wait, give me for instance on how you do that, because that seems so Jedi.
And again, it's just an old teacher trick. So again, little Johnny in the second row isn't listening or whatever. I'll just keep talking about the state capitals and I'll be looking directly at him. Maybe the other students notice that I'm looking directly at him or maybe not, but I'm just standing there. And then Johnny and I make eye contact and it's like, oh, the teacher caught me talking. It's the same thing in a comedy club. I'll just keep doing that. And then we lock eyes and then, oh, he just saw me talking. And again, 99% of the people, it's over because they're just like, oh, I've had a couple of cocktails. I didn't realize what I was doing. And I'm not making a mean face at them. I'm not doing that. It's just, okay, I'm aware. This is not television. I'm here. I can see you back. Now we're back and we're here and we're good. Now, some people will, if they think they're more important than anything, like they'll keep talking or whatever. So then that's when you have to dig in a little bit more. And I'll address it then. I'm like, oh, hey, what are you guys talking about? In a nice way, What are you guys talking about? Oh,
That's hilarious.
And by the way, most of the time they're like, oh, you were talking about your dog and that was a really funny joke. And I have a dog too. And so I was telling my table mates about my dog. And it's like, nobody cares about your dog. It's my turn. But it's just an acknowledgement that, hey, I realize that you're talking and it's a little disruptive. I'm not being mean about it, but okay. Also, what I've done is then I've also alerted the rest of the audience that this person is talking, because most of the people in the audience don't know that that one table is having a little conversation because it's not that loud, but I can hear it. So then if I have to go back to them again, I might have to get a little more stern and a little meaner with them. But by that point, okay, now I'm going back a second time. Now the crowd has seen me talk to them twice. So by the third time I have to go back and talk to them, if I have to get a little mean, the crowd is hopefully on my side. Because if they're just having a conversation and I just turn right away, I'm like, shut up, and I just start screaming at them, the crowd is going to be like, oh, he just yelled at that poor couple, because they don't realize that that poor couple has been talking for 20 minutes. So it's just little, okay.
And you lose the audience if you do that.
I don't want to be the mean guy. So it's like, I have to let them know that, all right, this is a problem that keeps happening. And then they get annoyed at those people. So then if I have to go after them a little bit, they're going to be on my side.
Yeah, probably in history, only Sam Kinison could have done that and gotten away with it. Outside that, maybe Gilbert Gottfried.
Right, exactly.
Nobody,
just screaming at the crowd.
It really, really is a special type of person who can do that and still win the day. Most of us cannot, and I'm guessing that would not be your style.
Besides those two guys, basically, you can't lose your cool on stage.
For sure.
You have to be the one that's in charge. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, you have to be slightly known as a misanthrope to be able to pull that off.
Exactly.
Which you are certainly not. I'm thinking about a time when I was needing to do an impromptu talk. I didn't know I was going to need to do it. And it was, of all places, a high maximum security prison. I was with a high-tech team. I was working with folks from the Facebook counterterrorism and child safety team. And we were doing a tour of the prison to see what it was like. And the forensic psychologist said, hey, Dr. Dorsay, are you ready to give your presentation to our black suits? And I was like, presentation, black suits, what are you talking about? I look over at my coordinator. I said, do you know anything about this? And the two of them actually said, no. And I said, it's okay, I got this. And so I walk in. Apparently these black suits are like the Green Berets of prison guards.
Oh, wow.
And there are 60 of them, and they all have stone face. And I walk in, and I'm trying to lighten up the room. And I said, hey, guys, I'm from Facebook. And I noticed there's some differences between Facebook and the prison. At Facebook, in the welcoming area, they have free candy. And at your prison, no free candy. I thought that was a pretty good joke. Nothing. Yeah. I got nothing. And so I just look at them, and I simply threw down the oldest line in the book, and it worked. I just looked at them and said, wow, tough crowd. And then they laughed. And sometimes just to get that jar open, you need to throw down, an old chestnut, an old cliched thing, and it works.
And it's cliche because it works.
That's right.
And what you did was you made a joke that maybe they relate to, maybe they don't. But what you did was then you said, boy, tough crowd. You're talking specifically about them. You're talking about what's happening in this moment right here. So it's, again, about relating to that audience. Boy, tough crowd. You saw what just happened and you made a joke about it in the moment. And so then like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. He's in the moment. He can say something funny. He's with us. You could have walked in and had that Facebook joke locked and loaded, ready to go. It's still not relating. But the fact that you're just, boom, oh, tough crowd. They're like, oh, he's quick. He's sharp. He's on his feet. And he just clocked us. He read us and he knows what's going on. So we're going to laugh at this guy.
And thankfully, yeah, because the rest of the presentation went great. And I was basically the canary in the coal mine. I was the opener. And thankfully, I didn't return dead. And that allowed for the other people who were not as ready to speak to 60 people. It was a good warm up. I mean, I love it when Jerry Seinfeld showed on one of his episodes that the best way to screw somebody over is to open up for them. Just dive and die. If you have a crap opener, that is no warm up. But let's talk about that for a second. Every comedian talks about it extensively. What's it like to die on stage? To really, really go up there and know there is no way to save the day. I have to finish my time. And I just can't wait to say, that's my time, folks. But
yeah,
it's going nowhere. Maybe you're in a city where they don't get you, or for some reason, just randomly, the audience was not your audience.
Yeah. It's the loneliest feeling in the world. There is that adage, you probably know about this, like in a relationship where they say, and it's totally true, where it's like the most lonely you'll ever be is not being by yourself. It's being with someone where you still feel lonely,
100%.
like that kind of thing.
100%.
So imagine being with 250 people and just those daggers and that loneliness. And again, it's just that lack of connection. That's when you have to stop and say, hey, this isn't working. Let's have a powwow real quick. Like, what is happening here? And you have to address it because, again, the funny part is they are all relating to each other. They're all connecting because they have decided as a group, we don't like this third party. And so I have to get myself back into their good graces and be like, hey, what's happening here? And by the way, sometimes it's just not working. It's a bad crowd or they're drunk or they're rowdy or whatever. But I will say this, and I'm not bragging here, but I will say I don't bomb very often. And even when I was coming up, I don't bomb very often. But I've had many, many very mediocre sets. And that's almost as bad. It's almost worse sometimes because it's just like I somehow connected, but they just didn't enjoy what I had to say, rather than those moments of just tumbleweeds. And by the way, I don't like to be offensive. I don't like to insult people, stereotypes, anything like that. I don't think that's cool at all. But then it's like, did I say something really that they mistook as something really offensive? So then they just decided to put the brakes on. But every once in a while, there's just a vibe in the air where they're just like, nope, not this guy. It's almost magical. There's a magic feeling of like, wow, I have done something that I don't know what I did, but to just alienate myself from a room full of people. It's kind of enthralling. Also, that's when you're on high alert, because when you're on stage, you, as you know this, you think much faster than everybody else. Your neurons are firing way faster than everybody. So you're just overthinking everything, going at 60 miles an hour while they're just sitting there drinking their beers and you have no idea what's happening, but you're experiencing it 5 times as much they are because every second you are trying to compute what's going on. And it can be rough. But really what you have to do is you have to just sit and be like, okay, well, you guys hate me. Let's find out why. And then you just have to totally shift gears and break everything and start from scratch.
Can you tell us about a time when you actually turned the audience around? It was like, wow, they've collectively swiped left.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not their guy. I feel rejected. And by the way, we know rejection hits the same pain receptors in the brain as physical pain through neuroimaging. So this is not a small thing. Feeling rejected is awful. And so can you describe a time when you somehow figured out a way out of the pit?
There was a time where I went after the crowd. I yelled at them. They could tell it was with love and was whatever, but it was a fake meltdown where I just started screaming and blamed them.
Do it. Can you do a little bit of it?
It was years ago, but I was just like, okay, that's my favorite joke. That's the greatest joke in the world. You guys ruined it. It's my birthday today. I think I said it's my birthday today. It wasn't. And then so that broke.
I'm dying here.
First of all, a grown man announcing it's your birthday is just so shameful.
Good.
And it was just like, it's my birthday. And you guys and then I just started this story of my cat just died. You know,
No.
I just came from my grandmother's funeral and you did this. I was trying to think of like, what are the worst things in the world? I got some test results back today, which were horrible. So then I just making it, this is the worst day ever for this person. And I was like, and you people ruined it. And then it just got them on. They knew I was kidding. Boy, okay, I got them back. Now we can have fun. There's also a thing too, where audience members can be very powerful. I was the third person on stage. I was headlining. So it was a host and then the middle act. And there was a table that was just kind of obnoxious right up front, ruining the whole show. And I didn't acknowledge it too much, but they were a problem throughout the show. Luckily, we had communicated with the staff. Everybody was like, hey, they're trouble. So about 10 minutes into my very mediocre set, they just left on their own, right? And they just walked out. And I didn't say anything. And they got out of the room. And I just stopped in the middle of my joke. And I just said something like, oh, we're okay now. We're all okay now, right? Everybody's safe. And it was just this thing of just catharsis of like, everybody knew that this table was weird and they were making noise. They were being inappropriate. So then everybody else is quiet. And it was just like, all right, we're safe now. And then I started making fun of those two people that left. And then we all became one. And it was just this magical moment of, thank God, this awful presence has been lifted from us. And again, then I was able to connect. I didn't connect with that table there because it was just this weird energy, but they moved out. If I didn't say anything, it still would have been weird, but I was just like, okay, they were the weirdest people in the world, right? And then it was just boom. And then, all right, we've mentioned it, the elephant in the room. Now we can all move on together.
I love that so much. And the number of skills that are required to pull off that sad sack act and really, really work it and make it funny for the benefit of everybody. That is absolutely one of the greatest stunts I've ever heard. That
Thank
is
you.
so good.
And again, you go back to, like you just said, it's like, oh, that cliche line of, oh, tough crowd. I kind of did the same exact thing. You know, it was just like
way better.
But I just dug myself deeper. I just made myself such a sad sack. But I also did it too in a funny way. You have to be funny about it rather than just be like, boy, you guys didn't like that joke. And boy, you know, women don't really like me. And I don't have a good relationship with my parents. And I might lose my apartment. People are like, oh my God, this is terrible. You have to be funny about it. You have to tragedy plus time, or at least a little twist is what's important too. There has to be an emotion attached to it. And you have to own that. If you're being self-deprecating, you have to have a confidence behind that self-deprecation.
1,000,000%. I mean, you went full Chip Chantry on that. And yet there was also, to me, kind of a slight nod to Zach Galifianakis. That is the kind of shit he would pull off. And to the benefit of everybody. And you have that gift and you happen to know that that's something you can do. And it seems like what you're doing is you're saying, hey, listen, I'm going to go internal. I'm going to ask myself, what have I got?
Mm-hmm.
And you're aware of what you've got. You're aware of all the tools. And you know when to judiciously bring them out for a tough surgical procedure. And you just killed that. Just the idea of that brought me just so much joy, even though I didn't get to see you nearly lose the room, except you won them back.
Oh,
and you did it through just absolute genius. I've got so many questions for you, Chip. And there may be a need for a part 2, but I'm going to ask
I'm
you
ready.
this.
I'm ready for a part 2.
I'm like a kid in a candy store with you.
This is so much fun.
Oh, beyond. Can you tell us a little bit about your prep? How do you craft a joke? How do you prepare for a big show? I can't even imagine.
To start out from the beginning, in teaching a stand-up class, one of the most common questions I get, how do you write comedy? How do you write jokes? You know, how do you develop them? Where do they come from? Where do you get your jokes? You know, and what I realized is after a while of teaching, it took me a little while to realize that this is the issue. It's not about writing. I don't know how to write a joke. I'll be honest with you. I've written thousands of them. A lot of them are pretty good. I've done it many, many times, but I don't know how. But I realized it's not about writing comedy. Much more importantly, it's about finding comedy. That's the most important thing. It's about finding it. It's training your eyes and ears as a human being to watch what's going around you 24 hours a day. Even in your dreams, you're getting stimulus. You're at the coffee shop, you're at the office, you're with your family, you're driving in traffic, you're at a store. You're seeing human beings interact with each other all the time. It's my job as a comedian to take that in and take notes. I tell my students on the first day, I'm like, I hate to tell you this, you are no longer a human being. You are now an observer of the human race. That is now your job. And so you have to find those moments. One of my last albums I had a joke about this nail salon and they do bikini waxes. And the reason I know this is I was walking down the street in the city one day and it was a nail salon and they just had this sign that said waxing. And then there was a menu of all the types of waxing they had. Now, most people just say, okay, whatever. I saw something at the bottom of that just hit me because it was like facial waxing, $10, underarm, $17. At the bottom, it said bikini wax, $25 and up.
I love that.
And so up, Adam, and up is just 2 small words.
Yep.
But I just saw it. And luckily, the comedian in me clocked that and was like, wait a minute. I've never had a bikini wax, but it must be embarrassing and delicate as it is. But it's like, now there's haggling and estimates. And so luckily I saw that and I wrote it down right away. I didn't write a full joke. I call it planting a seed of comedy. Okay, I just have to write this down. Bikini wax, $25 and up. What does that look like? And so that's how I formulated it. So it's, as a comedian, you have to have your eyes and ears open at all times and be watching and listen. A lot of people think that comedians are like the life of the party and having so much fun. We are the ones that sit in the corner at the party with ourselves and we just watch everybody else having a good time and being like, well, that's weird. And we're just quietly pointing things out because our job, when I'm up on stage, putting out jokes, giving the world jokes, that's a very small percentage of my time. Most of it is being quiet and watching people and being like, oh, that's weird. That's odd. Making analysis, making these connections. And then that's where the jokes get formed.
Bro, you're part anthropologist, part sociologist, part alien. You have to look at things as if you're not a part of this race.
You said it right there, alien. I say describe it to an alien or a 4-year-old. How would you describe a banana split to someone who has never seen a banana split before? We've all seen a banana split. It's a very obvious thing. How can I explain this now in a new, interesting way that we haven't thought of before, that somebody hasn't thought of before? And then you go through the motions of explaining that very normal thing. Here's a trash can. We've all seen millions of trash cans in our lives every day. But how can I explain that in a new, unique way? That's what our job is to do as comedians, take it in, see things and analyze them, and then pick the stuff that seems like the most interesting and then convey that to a room full of strangers.
My man, I'm going to ask you my final question, but with a slight tear in my eye because time has gone by way too quickly.
Me too. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, but I can already feel that there's got to be a part 2 and it's going to be great. If you had the magical powers to confer upon all humanity one insight or skill that would dramatically improve the lives of humans, and since we're all connected, perhaps the people around that human, what insight or skill would you confer? And how do you imagine it would improve the life of the individual as well as the people around that individual?
This works for me as somebody who's always had anxiety, and I think this would help for a lot of people, especially, post-pandemic and all this stuff. What I just said about finding comedy. I think a lot of times we think comedy and humor, that's output. You're telling a joke, you're writing a sketch, you're whatever, you're performing. It's that finding comedy that's called levity. So there's comedy, but then there's levity. And that's what I try to use to try to de-stress situations, even in my own head sometimes, where I look at a situation, I see a situation, and I say, what's funny about this? Mm-hmm. A guy cuts you off in traffic. What's funny about what's going on? I literally almost was killed a couple of weeks ago. I was walking through a crosswalk, and a guy almost hit me because he was driving his truck while doing a scratch-off lottery ticket. Okay, that's hilarious right there. That could have been a very serious situation. I could have got mad. I could have screamed at him, road rage, whatever it is. But I was like, okay, he's doing a scratch-off ticket. He hates his job in his truck. He's doing this thing. So he's trying to improve himself. And I was like, okay, that's funny. So whenever there's a argument with a significant other, or there's a stressful situation at work or at home, whatever it is, can you see the humor in something? And I think that really de-stresses the situation. It brings down your heart rate and it just lets you breathe. It's attributed to Mark Twain, but the adage of tragedy plus time equals comedy. Let's take that time out of there. Can we rip that time out and be like, what's funny about that right now? Okay, I'm standing in line at the drugstore and there's 30 people in front of me and this is taking forever. I could be that guy that's a real jerk and starts complaining or mouthing off or getting angry with people. Or I could be like, okay, this is funny because X, Y, and Z. And then I'm entertaining myself. I might even be entertaining people around me. And then I'm lightening the situation, at least for myself or the people around me, is I use that levity and finding comedy in situations that I might get angry or get sad or get scared about. I'm finding the comedy in it.
I have no words to describe my gratitude to you as well as your fellow comedians for bringing what you bring. I know Adam Sandler has a whole song as a tribute to comedy in one of his recent specials. Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree with that sentiment more. Just the funny people on the planet do so much to make life a better thing. And you're contributing to making life a better thing. I just can't thank you enough for what you do and for sharing.
You're saying that I am the real hero And yes, I agree with that, Adam. I am the real hero in the world. There's nobody more mightier and brave than comedians. We are doing the Lord's work out there. And I will accept that. Yes, thank you. We are the true heroes.
Amen, my brother. Oh, so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been such an honor. This has been so much fun talking to you. I think we did 15 minutes and it's been an hour.
Yep. It was a tight 15. All right, brother. More to be had.
To be
Thanks
continued.
again.
This is Dr. Adam Dorsay thanking you for listening to SuperPsyched. If you know anyone who might like it or who might benefit from listening, share it. And if you like the episode, please hit subscribe.